if an individual can reason that in the cause of justice or in the interest of the fair distribution or the just distribution of resources to support the progress of human life, that I can oppress human life, that is immoral according to Islamic teaching and discipline. But that is the communist argument. And if a person can say that because I have been given as a creation of the earth access to the resources of the earth, that I can hoard the resources of the earth to support my own progress and deny others that, that's the extreme of capitalism. And Islam punishes that. That there is a check and a moral obligation, a demand on even the wealth of the individual to support the progress of society. Principle of zakat, that orders and guarantees and establishes the role and the fair distribution or just distribution of wealth. It is a property that belongs to God because he created it, but he gave it to his creation, human creation, for its fair distribution under the discipline that he has established, under the principles that he has established. So you can see where Imam W. Muhammad said that Prophet Muhammad is the true socialist, having in his consciousness and in his morality the responsibility to serve the progress of human life, to support that progress, but at the same time, simultaneously recognizing the obligation to satisfy the purpose for which God created human life. You'll hear people say, you know, God doesn't have anything to do with this. This is between human beings. You hear people make that argument. That's a social argument. That's a political argument. And it comes from the Sadducees and the Pharisees. And that's the beginning or the origin of communist thinking. That this is a human affair. Has nothing to do with God. Everything has something to do with God, because God created everything. And he created human conscience. He created human intelligence. He intended that his human creation bond with the creation itself so as to support its own progress. So attention to the purpose for which he created everything is due. And a morally disciplined human being, knowing that there are possibilities in creation itself that can harm human life, will discipline their approach to that harm for the sake of the moral progress of man. Just because it's accessible doesn't mean it belongs to you in your development. And that is the difference between a morally conscious and a morally dead person. So that's the difference between a person who has invested in their soul and a person who has neglected their soul. Because the communist thinkers, they took up the matter of the soul too. The human soul, the human worth, the human value. And they wanted to overturn religious principles that directed and disciplined human life, and question all of those principles, and question religious influence as a leader for the evolution of moral thinking. So if you look at the philosophers that came after Marx and Engels, and what they wrote, questioning ethics that govern society. So here is another expression of Marxism or communism culturally, not just in a political sense. And I can name some of these philosophers. It'd take too long. So you see there's a complexity. Where are we? Where should we be? That's the question. Where should we be in this discussion? We're the followers of Muhammad the Prophet, the human person who recognized and understood that the oppressive condition of man can only be addressed effectively by concentration on obedience to God and recognition and embracing of his guidance, because the scheme of the enemy of man is too powerful in appealing to man's emotional nature for man to prevail against it. That God helps human life. And in man's acceptance of God's help is the just order. I saw recently a person with a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, and it said on it, Black wealth. That's it. Black wealth. And I know where it comes from. I know where the influence comes from. The influence comes from the idea, which is true, that that which has been the property of Black people in America and also historically has been stolen from the white world. That's the idea. That's what they're promoting. That's the influence that they're promoting. That our pursuit of wealth is to get back what belonged to us in the first place. The argument of the shaitan. It's not Black wealth. It's the resources of the earth that belong to all morally conscious human beings for the interest of progressing human life. So it's the wealth that God has made to support progress for human society. And so when we become aware of the principles that are derived from pursuing that wealth, we recognize that in the pursuit of that, there is the idea of justice. And there is the responsibility of the leadership or distribution of justice and the establishment of a just order. So even when we form a budget for ourselves, there's a moral discipline associated with that budget. That within our budgeting is a concentration that and an obligation that we place on ourselves to pursue wealth so as not to be a burden on the society, but also to pursue wealth so that we can give justly to others to support their progress. So we're not communists and we're not capitalists. We are Muslims belonging to the just vision and order for society under Muhammad the Prophet's leadership, and in the very, I would say, advanced tradition of Imam W.D. Muhammad's thinking and leadership.